So, how do you want to start this?
I don't know. How do you want to start it?
I have no idea.
This is Donor 101. Let's do it.
That works.
Donor Conception 101.
Very formal. I love it. Well, we've been so happy with the feedback that we've been getting. We've had some different donor-conceived folks reaching out to us and sharing their stories on our Instagram account and on Facebook and inviting us to be on their podcast. So it's been really exciting, and it's so good to hear that we don't sound like idiots.
Very true.
I think that was my, number one fear, is sounding like the most idiotic people in the world.
I mean, I guess we don't know that we didn't, but we know that no one told us we did.
I guess that's a valid point. We could still sound like idiots, and if so, I'm sorry. But for the most part, this has been amazing. I don't care if anyone's listening except for our siblings. But I think our conversations with them since that, and just we've evolved from a Facebook group to a WhatsApp group. So we're making definite, advances in our relationships.
Yeah, our GIF game is on point.
Yeah.
A lot of good conversations. Is it GIF or GIF?
I never know, and then I read things about which one it should be, and then I forget.
All right. Well, our little small animated short picture game is on point.
Yes, and it's just been so nice, and hopefully we can plan our reunion and get to meeting at some point over the next year. That would be amazing. I can't wait to meet everyone, and I think it's going to be weird because I feel like we're going to have certain traits or things that are in common, especially when we're around each other. I don't know. I'm ready for it.
Yeah.
Things we do, or I don't know. You know.
Yeah. I'm imagining a family photo and how weird that would be to have a family photo. Even just a photo with one of you guys, having a picture of me with a sibling seems bizarre. And I'm super pumped.
Other than our creepy Brady Bunch collage we have, so we can look at all the faces together. But that's another story.
Every time we get a new sibling, we add it to our little collage of faces. And it's always kind of creepy, though, because sometimes they haven't necessarily talked to you or made contact with you, but they're still on your pictures. And if you're listening, I'm sorry, and we just want you to be included.
Yeah, but we don't show it to it's just for us to look at it, and it's really funny because you put a sibling on there and you're like, okay, yes, they're one of us. They look like us. They have the similar features, the cheekbones, the eyebrows, the whatever. Yeah.
My favorite thing was when you updated it once. And you sent it to me, and I, took a picture of one of our brothers in the middle of it, and I was like, who is this? And it took me a few minutes before I realized which brother it was, because it's one we haven't, connected with really yet, but the moment when you're, don't even know who your own sibling is, to the point where you're like, who the F is this? Why are they on this thing?
I think the best part is I was making that when I was flying to New Orleans to go back to work on my house to sell it. And I know the people that were sitting next to me on the plane, they kept looking at my phone as I was, putting together this little collage of all these random people. And they're like, he just kept looking, and I wanted to explain, but I didn't want to get in that conversation. But I know it looked weird. I know it looked odd.
That's when you just say, this is for my murder board. Do you want to see it?
Yeah.
And see what he says.
A little weird.
Oh,
you know,
God.
it's just funny because one of the things that is interesting is that you will all kind of be on this journey with us as we meet everyone, because neither Deanna or myself have met anyone of our siblings yet. I know there's a couple of siblings who have met other ones because they found out in an earlier age, but we haven't met each other, and we haven't met any of our siblings, and we haven't met our biological father, so you'll definitely be along for that journey as when we do get to meet these people.
And we have a couple of sibling sets, so they're like full siblings, same donor as us. So at some point we're going to do a twofer. Meet two of them at the same time.
So based on some of the listener questions, specifically from one of my friends, Erin, hey girl. I don't know why I said hey girl. I don't know why I even wrote that down to say. I don't say hey girl. We decided it might be better to start with kind of the basics of donor conception before getting deeper into our stories and the processing stages of finding out. And so Deanna is our resident expert on this subject, as she's the one who basically shared all of her knowledge with me once I found out. So I'm kind of just going to ask you a bunch of questions, and yeah, and you can tell me about everything you've researched, and that makes it really easy for me because I didn't have to research any of it, and I'm learning.
I mean, I don't know that I'm an expert. I think I've learned more about this process than I ever thought or wanted to, but I will answer what I can.
Okay, let's start with the donation process. So, I don't know, like, from what you read, like, why do people do it? How long and often do they donate? And even, like, what sperm bank did we come from? You know, what do you know about that process?
Yeah, I know. I mean, there's this conception that it's done for money. And, yeah, okay, I think it'd be really naive to be like, no, it's not for the money, because, like, it is part of it. And it's really not that much money. Even, like, today, I think it's, like, between $30 and $60, depending on the bank you go to. Yeah, I know a lot of times it's medical students that will get into it for, just for, like, sharing their seed, for lack of better terms. I know sometimes, unfortunately, it's been, like, you know, people who are really narcissistic and think that, well, I have the best genes, so I should produce the most children. Or sometimes it's people that can't have kids in their lives, have touched them to donate sperm to help others. I think that's such a personal and private journey and choice that it's hard to know really what each person, what their reasoning is and why. Because
yeah, no, I mean, it makes sense. It's just, yeah. So how, like, do you know the process of how long or how often they do it or how that works? Is it just like you come in one day and like, hey, I'm going to do this, and then never do it again? Or, you know, what? I imagine it depends on the sperm bank too.
Yeah, I mean, all of them seem to be a little different, but still, again, the common misconception of, like, it's a college kid that goes in for money and then leaves isn't very accurate. So when people do sperm donation, it's like, I think one of the bank statistics was only like 5% of people that apply to be a sperm donor are even accepted as a sperm donor, because they have to go through a lot before they can get there. So they have to do, like, blood tests, they have to do physicals, they have to do semen samples and all of that kind of stuff. So it takes probably like 3 to 6 months to even become a donor. So it's a time commitment, to say the least. Yeah, and then they have to freeze them, and then they get randomly tested. And then, like, before they come in to donate, they also have to, like, refrain from sex for 48 hours ahead of time. And I think there's things that I don't know about alcohol, but I feel like I read somewhere they can't drink alcohol either. But yeah, and then how long they donate kind of varies. So I've seen some donors that it's like a really short time, so only for a few months, but typically it's been like a few years of donations.
Yeah. I mean, it makes sense if you're going through that much work at the beginning to become a sperm donor that you would continue doing it longer. It's not for just a, like you said, a quick turnaround.
Yeah, it's a pretty big time commitment. A lot of them I've seen do it for a few years at a time. I don't know, that kind of depends on how often they go in, but yeah, and then some. The hard thing is there's not really a good way to track any of this, so the sperm banks are like kind of a hot mess, especially from the 80s and 90s, from when our sibling group came from. And you never know if one person, went to one bank and then also went to another bank. They could move and start at a new one, and it can get really messy. And as far as what sperm bank we're from, I know which one that is, and I'm not comfortable saying it on here. There's been people who find out questions about their sperm bank or reach out for information, at times have been served with lawsuits. And I don't want to put us in that place. So, but well,
thank you.
But what I can say is when you do contact the sperm bank that you come from, they give you pretty limited information. A lot of times they give the donor actually a different donor number than they give the people receiving it. So like we know our donor is donor 40, and that may not be the number he got when he was a donor, to make it harder for them to find offspring, vice versa.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
I guess like keeping, it's interesting because I haven't thought about it until right now. Like, what if the donor wanted to know the children? You know what I mean? And maybe they had some ulterior motive. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's kind of fascinating. Or later they got curious and people didn't want to know they were,
Yeah.
I've never thought about it the opposite way. I've always thought they would never want to know.
Yeah.
But I guess that's true. You need to keep both identities protected.
Yeah, there's
as much as you can these days.
Oh yeah. There's some donors that are like known donors, and the known donors, when the child turns 18, they can request information from the bank.
Okay.
So some of them are a little more open.
But then you also have all those, I mean, we've seen this a lot in the media or different stories or in these Facebook groups we're involved in, of these donors who give away free sperm and go around and have like 100+ children.
Mm-hmm.
And that's even a whole other like conversation for another day.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's another way sperm donation happens, is from these people that basically peddle their sperm.
Yeah.
And it's kind of, that is even scarier when you think about it, because they haven't gone through the process of a sperm bank. And I know not all sperm banks are that reputable, but at least they do some kind of health testing and things like that. But these people are just, yeah.
Yeah. That always seems so skeezy to me. Like, having... Yeah. That's probably a topic for another day, because that gets a little too intense.
Yeah, but I'm just thinking about that now that you're telling me about, like, the process of becoming a sperm donor through a sperm bank versus these people who are just giving out their sperm. And what parents are like going into it with the idea, yeah, I want my kids to have 100 siblings. That's kind of crazy too, because I feel like they must know that.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, another topic for another day. That was just,
I think a lot of times it's interesting because a lot of and if you look at the donor descriptions, a lot of people are basing their donor selection solely off like physical appearances. So like, their height and their eye color. And so even those like sketchy donors on Facebook groups, they're like, oh, well, you have really pretty eyes. I want to have your baby because I want my baby to have really pretty eyes, which is so messed up. Like in the big scheme of things.
Are you not thinking about mental illnesses and other things that could be, I mean, that kind of segues perfectly into our next topic of, or my next questions of, so how do families get the sperm and kind of what's the process of choosing? I know like on our website, you put our donor description. And so I'm guessing that's something that the families were given.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, my parents actually didn't keep anything from the donor. They had guessed it was donor 40, and when they first told me that, I was like, that's not real. Because everything I looked at, it was like a number in the hundreds or thousands, and so I was like, 40, that's not a real nut. Come on, guys. But, yeah, thankfully Adam's mom had actually kept the stuff, and he sent it to me, which is how we got connected with other siblings. But his description was, this is all the information they really received, but Dutch Irish height was 6'2", weighed 170 pounds, blood type AB positive, dark brown straight hair, hazel eyes, and fair complexion. And that's it. I think some places it listed him as a business student.
I think my favorite thing on here is the said by staff member to be nice.
Yeah.
But, well, at least he's nice. That's what matters. Do they get a photo?
No.
I imagine they get it. They don't?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's weird.
So
they don't choose by, like, looks or,
No.
through sperm banks?
I think some banks do give the option for a photo, but, like, especially when you and I were conceived, that was not an option. Even now, from what I've seen in my, limited research,
yeah.
There's some that give an option for that, but not many.
Interesting. That's so interesting. It's so weird because I'm wondering now, like I said in a previous episode, my parents died when I was 13. And so I'm wondering now, like, did they keep any of that?
Yeah.
Did they, like, I know, like, my dad's side of the family and my mom's side of the family both came and helped clean out our house when they died. Like, was my grandma who, like, and I'll talk about that kind of on the next episode, who's the one person who knew on my dad's side of the family, did she, like, scout down, like, did she try to find the papers and hide it, Like, maybe she did. I don't know. And so that's interesting now. I think I have more questions for her. Because I'm imagining if there was some paper, someone would have found it,
Yeah. My parents got rid of it because I'm nosy.
I'm nosy too, so that could have been definitely, like, I would have maybe found it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, weird. So how much, like, does it really cost for families to get donor sperm and to do IVF, in vitro fertilization?
I don't really know about IVF. I know that, like, there's a couple different routes that you can go, and again, not an expert, just what I know, but, like, you can get vials, and some of the vials are like $300 a vial, depending on the quality of the sperm.
How do they determine the quality of the sperm? And by the way, I just need to point out the fact that I have never thought in my life I would use the word sperm as much as I have in the past 3 months.
Right.
Oh, but
I thought if I used the word sperm this much, I would at least be talking about whales. Like, I was so into marine biology, and it's a damn shame.
Yep, nope, you're talking about actual sperm. The quality of the sperm can...
Yeah.
I guess, does that mean, like, if they're just fancier with higher IQs, or I don't know, like...
I know some of them, like, advertise Ivy League schools and that kind of stuff.
Oh, that's so weird.
Yeah, I don't know.
Just to think, like, you were chosen... I mean, it goes into the whole thing of, like, designer babies and things like that, with people, like, messing with genetics. Anyway, again, another topic for another day, but yeah. Oh, weird.
So you can just go to a doctor's office, like a fertility clinic, and go through a doctor, and it's kind of all taken care of through that. I don't know how much that would cost. I have no idea. I know that, like, when you're buying vials, there was somebody that posted a math equation on one of the Facebook groups, And I just imagine that meme of the girl with, like, all the math problems floating in the air around her.
Yes.
And she's like, I don't know.
Confused.
Yeah. And it looked like he had a lot of, like, it looks like he made sense. And I have no idea what he was talking about. But, like, thinking about, okay, not every vial is going to work. And the other catch is if you want to have full siblings. So, like I was saying, we have some sibling sets in our sibling group. They would have to buy more sperm vials at the original purchase because you can't guarantee that when you go back, there's gonna be the same donor. So,
yeah,
you know, if you really
and then you
want
have to probably, do you have to like pay to store it for the future?
Yeah, then you have to pay on top of it storage fees, and they have like some deals and bonuses of, if you buy it at this time, you get storage free for so many months.
It's so weird to think of creating life. Like, you're creating a human being, and they're like, oh, buy one, get two free, or whatever. You know, it's...
I can only imagine saying to my son, like, yeah, you're gonna have a brother and sister one day. They're in storage right now, but, like, once we bust them out, then you'll have one, and it'll be great.
Oh, my gosh. Yeah, no, weird. I use weird a lot in this podcast too, and I'm sorry everyone, but that's the best word to describe the situation, in my opinion. No, I that's strange. I mean, it reminds you though, like, how much work your parents put into having you, you know, like going through this process of getting the sperm and doing all this. I mean, I knew forever that my parents, for like 8 or 9 years, they were trying to have me. And so I've always known that. I've always known that they went through so much. My mom went on fertility pills. Ended up, she had a tumor on her pituitary gland in her head that, on her brain, that made her body think she was pregnant or whatever. I'm not a doctor. I don't know what I'm talking about, but some things that nature. So she had to have surgery to get the tumor removed so that her body, like, she'd be able to get pregnant.
Yeah.
They went through a lot to have me, and so I always knew that. Again, I just didn't know that it was not my dad's sperm and it was someone else's. But yeah, I mean, they tried hard. They wanted me, so I mean, you can't be mad at them for wanting me. You know, it's
absolutely.
It's like I wouldn't be alive if they didn't do all this. But yeah,
I know sometimes they mix, like, sometimes they'll put the social dad or the partner or whatever, their sperm, and they'll mix it with donor sperm.
What?
Yeah. So sometimes they'll
I'm just
mix
imagining mixing sperm. Oh, weird. Okay, keep going.
Sometimes they'll mix it, and so you don't actually know. And I wonder if they really do, or if it's like peace of mind for the social dad of, like, I don't know if it's mine or the donor.
This could this could be mine, and that can, like, be that little bit of reassurance, you know.
Yeah.
Oh. Okay. Weird. That's interesting. But so, like, in an ideal world for most of these donors, they won't ever know or hear anything from their offspring. Of course, this was until 23andMe, Ancestry, and all of these, but before these sites, so there was the donor registry, and I know just a little bit about what you've told me about it, and that's how we found a couple of our siblings.
Yeah.
And how we are trying to find maybe a couple more. We just have not narrowed down exactly who they are.
Yeah.
We don't know yet. So,
yeah.
What are your thoughts on the donor sibling registry?
Ooh,
DSR.
I have so many thoughts on the donor sibling registry. I'm gonna think carefully. So, the donor sibling registry was created by a woman and her son. Her son was conceived using a sperm donor, and it originally started out as a Yahoo, like, group that people would come onto. And it was in search for half siblings of her son. And then there was, like, a growing need for it, right? Because everyone was like, "Oh, I want to connect with my half siblings." So then the donor sibling registry, I think it was created in, like, 2000, so it's almost been up for 20 years at this point. I like the concept of the donor sibling registry, and there's a few things that are incredibly frustrating. So the donor sibling registry, you can look up under your donor's number and bank that the sample's from, if you have that. So when I first found out, I was like, oh, I'm going to get me on the registry, right? I didn't have any of that. So the registry means nothing at that point. Like, I have zero information on who the donor is, so I probably have siblings sitting in there. I just don't know who they are. And that's really that's the kicker, right? Is like, I don't know. So when I got the information from Adam, I looked up our number, and we had 6 siblings listed. One was Adam, his mom had listed it. And then I sent emails to the other 5. One was a sibling set, and the other 3 were individual. The problem is, so if you logged on to the donor sibling registry right now and you don't have an account, you can see everything as far as like who's listed under what donor and who, whatever, and what the donor descriptions are posted by the people. What you can't see is the message that they wrote. So for our 6 siblings that were listed, I could see we had 6 siblings. I could see their birthday, if they were a boy or a girl, and that was it. If I wanted to open the message and read what they wrote, I would have to pay the membership fee. Now, a 1-year membership on the DSR is $99.
That's, yeah.
Yeah, it's not cheap. And you can get a lifetime membership for $199. So originally I was like, okay, I got to do the lifetime because that's clearly the better money. I ended up doing the 1 year because on our sibling, or on our donor number, those 6 sibling posts were posted 10 years ago. So I'm paying, assuming that one of those people, one of the 6, has the same, 5, because we're not going to count Adam, has the same email or address as they did 10 years ago.
Which is, probably not the case.
Right. And then on top of that, they have to have a current membership to read my message. So if this happened with one of them, who later I tracked down through some alternative methods. But when I connected with that person's mom, they said, I saw I had a message on the DSR, and sorry, I just didn't want to pay $100 to see what your message said. And I'm like, oh, that's fair. Like, you shouldn't pay $100 to see what my message says. So it's really frustrating. I mean, it's a nonprofit. It serves a good purpose. And it's incredibly frustrating that they're charging you to see your own family or to find out your own family. And having the only internal messaging system, like, at least let it go to their email. Like, she said that, because I emailed her directly, the person who runs it, to be like, hey, I want to buy membership, and if none of these people...
Of course you did. I love that you did. Yeah. Anyway, keep going. Sorry.
I was like, yeah, I want to buy a membership. I have 6 siblings listed on here, and can you tell me if any of these 6 people are active? Because I don't want to buy a membership, and then they can't read my message without paying, because that's kind of crappy.
Yeah.
And she said 2 were active, and the rest she was going to mail a letter to. And the letter just says, you have a message waiting on the donor sibling registry, if it's the correct address from 10 years ago.
Yeah.
So...
Interesting.
Yeah.
You hadn't told me that part. Okay. Huh.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, at least I think, so for all 6 of them, we've connected with, Adam, obviously.
We have
connected with the one that you talked to her mom.
Mm-hmm.
And then, is that where our one from California is, the girl?
Yep. And the boy.
And the boy. Okay.
Yeah.
And then we have the 2 that we're not sure about. And so, like, these messages are kind of cryptic, too, because you don't really have their full information. I mean, Deanna is so impressive with how she's, like, been able to find out some of these people. But you just don't really have the full picture either. And so it's sad to know that they were interested in reaching out 10 years ago and you can't get in touch with them now, when I feel like now is even a better time for us to meet. We're all in our 20s and 30s. Like, we are way more capable to handle this news and to move forward, like, with our new siblings and this new part of our life. So
I think, though, one of the other flaws, though, is, like, and we're dealing with this right now with one of our siblings, is we have a sibling who's on the registry with us, and when I was talking to her mom's like, I don't know, I've always worried that I remembered the number wrong. And I'm like, okay. And I was Skyping with that sister a couple weeks ago, and just to get to know each other, and we were talking about 23andMe, and she's like, oh, I'm on there. And I was like, wait, what? And she's like, yeah, I'm on there. And I was like, oh, well, I am too, and you're not on my matches. You know, and then showing our profiles together and it saying, like, you are not related. And that sucks even more because she's someone that's been connected with our other sisters for, like, 10 years.
And now she may not be our sibling. But, I mean, then that brings you to the whole, like, I mean, to me, she's still a sibling.
Yeah.
Just because, I mean, obviously she's, her whole life, not that she didn't know about us, but, like, some of our other siblings have been her siblings, and I mean,
she's on this crazy journey with us.
Yes, and she kind of looks like us. I mean, she looks like us too. She fits the little creepy collage of all of us.
Yeah.
It was, but, like, that's another, I agree, that's definitely another flaw that can be, because that's really hard for her. I just can't imagine finding out you're donor conceived, thinking you have your siblings, finding out there's a million more of us, and then realizing it might not even be, like, real.
Yeah.
It's hard.
So precious, though. She's in you're our sister, honorary or DNA.
Yeah.
We're taking you. But it was...
Yeah, you're stuck with us whether you like it or not.
It was really precious in our group chat. Adam reached out and he's like, will you be my half-sister? I was about to start crying. I was like, oh, that's so sweet.
I know.
And she accepted.
I know. Oh my gosh.
But yeah, there's a lot of potential for error.
And so I'm guessing, like, there's another one, and I feel like that comes from the fact that it's a free one. I don't know if it was built off what the donor sibling registry was to bring everyone a free one. So, do you know much about what is it just called, Donor Children?
Yeah, it's just donorchildren.com. I know some. I'm not as familiar, so we don't have any sibling matches on it, which is why I'm a little less motivated to really dig into it. But they have a lot of really cool things. They actually have a podcast too, and we might collaborate with them in the future. Yeah, they have a lot of great links, and they can set you up with a donor conceived counselor or a DNA search detective consultant. So, like, they'll help you on your search, and it's a worldwide network for donor conceived people and social parents. And the DC Community for Support, and to create a demographic body that can have a voice in the media, academic research, and create legislative change. Yeah, so they're pretty awesome group, and just a ton of resources that they offer. So I want to learn more about it because they're really knowledgeable people. And then one other option, I mean, there's a handful of other little ones out there, they just don't have as many people on them. So, I mean, that reduces some of their value, right? Because there's not as many chances of matching. Individual banks tend to have some version. So, like, Cryobank of California is a really big bank. And again, just because it's the Cryobank of California doesn't mean that it's people that are conceived in California. They ship worldwide. So,
oh yeah, and that's something I meant to ask with the earlier bit about how you get sperm. So we talked about this a little before, but yeah, sperm is shipped everywhere.
Everywhere and anywhere. And I don't know how they pick where or who or what. Like, I don't know how my parents in California got hooked up with some sperm from Virginia, but I don't know. But some of the banks have their own sibling registry. So California, Sperm Bank of California has a pretty good sized one. Our bank has like a form that you can use that I've set up a page for our siblings, but there's nobody on it.
Of course you have.
And that's kind of it. I mean, there's a bunch of different Facebook groups, and
I think we can mention, like, We Are Donor Conceived is a really great Facebook group.
Oh, yeah.
For people who are, I mean, there's a million of them, but We Are Donor Conceived is such a great Facebook group. When you find out, Deanna told me about that one the first day, and that's like the first one I joined, and just hearing other people's stories and introducing yourself. Remember when I introduced myself, because everyone does it once you get in the group and you tell your story. I mean, I had like 70 people or something comment, and they're like, we're here, like, we know what you're going through, and some would like share similar things where maybe their social parents or their social dad and their mom had died like mine had, and how that is. And it was just nice to have those other people who understand. So if you do find out you're donor conceived and you're not in that group, go get in the group. Trust me, it's so amazing.
Yeah, it's really a really supportive community, and they're a really good organization too. Not only do they have the Facebook group, they have a lot of stuff outside of Facebook. We are donorconceived.com. They have different videos, different resources. They kind of have guides for like when you first find out, click here. These are the steps to kind of do. And it's just a really well done group that is really means a lot to a lot of people.
Mm-hmm. So. And so outside all of these, different registries, then of course, all the DNA websites started popping up. Ancestry, 23andMe, MyHeritage, FTDA, what is that? Family Tree
DNA. Yeah. Ancestry and 23andMe are obviously your, like, big hitters, right? 23andMe tends to be more popular in the United States, and Ancestry tends to be more popular, like, across the globe. And they both have a really great database. I think it really depends on what you're looking for. Like, I build a lot of family trees, so Ancestry is definitely my go-to of, that's how I build my trees out, and that's where I get my resources from. And there's some things I like better about 23andMe as well. But if you're in a spot where you want DNA testing, man, now's the time to do it, because right now, Ancestry and 23andMe, they call it downloading your raw data. So you can download your DNA from 23andMe and Ancestry, and you can upload it for free onto MyHeritage, Family Tree DNA, GED Match, Living DNA, because these databases are trying to get going and make their kits valuable, but they can't do that without samples to match people against. Yeah, so I, paid for my kit from Ancestry and 23andMe, and every other site I'm on has just been uploading my DNA for matches.
It's so nice. I don't have to really worry about getting on the rest of the sites, because you do it, and I'll know if we have family.
Yup.
Yeah, I did 23andMe first, and then I decided to take the Ancestry test just because I didn't want to take anything for granted, or like, I didn't want to assume anything. I didn't want to assume that my mom was my mom, and I did have an aunt on Ancestry and knew about that, so I took the test just to make sure I wasn't a double donor, because some people are conceived with a sperm and egg donor. I imagine it's more rare, of course, but I just wanted to double check and have it like true that my mom's side of the family actually is my mom's side of the family.
it's so crazy how they can do that. Just like the more you think about it, because, you know, you can be sperm donor conceived. You can be egg donor conceived. You can be a double donor, which means you picked an egg and you picked a sperm. And then you can be a donated embryo. So, like, somebody who started their family, right, and the look on your face right now is precious.
I was just like, what? There's another one?
There's another one. So, you can, so, like, say my husband and I were having trouble getting pregnant, right? And we were going through in vitro fertilization. So we had some of my eggs and some of his sperm collected to make embryos to implant, right? Mm-hmm. So, say I got my baby. I don't need the other ones, so I can donate them to be adopted.
Oh. Crazy!
Yeah. So, because, I mean, you may not want another child and you've already done all this work, and there's people out there that need children and want children.
It's already done. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Oh, that is insane. I did not know about that one.
Yeah. It's trippy when you think about it. Technology's cool.
Oh my gosh. And like, I mean, so like with all of this, with the DNA websites and everything, really like there goes the anonymity for donors. I mean,
oh yeah,
it doesn't, and even as we were talking about earlier, for donor conceived children, in a way too. I mean, technically, there's just no anonymity either way anymore, because it doesn't take the donor to get on there. It takes their brother. I mean, you found it from a cousin, right?
Mm-hmm. I found one guy's I was working on maybe a month or two ago. Hey, if you're listening. And he, I mean, he had some pretty good matches, but I mean, it was mostly a couple second and third cousins. I think it took me 6 hours to find his donor. I mean, it's really
second and third cousins. Yeah, and you don't know what your family's doing.
If you have the right stuff. No.
Yeah. And you can't be a donor and say, hey, everyone in my entire extended family and close family, you are not allowed to use these websites. Like, you can't. And then, again, that goes back to the question of these, or the problem with some of the donors, and again, we'll talk about this later, but getting so mad and so, like, infuriated by this DC individual reaching out to one of the second and third cousins and trying to figure out what's going on, because they don't know what's up. For the most part, you know, like, you can't control what people do. It makes me mad. But again, we'll talk about that more another day.
The fact that they're mad about the outcome of their own decisions and choices just blows my mind a little bit.
Yeah, you made those choices. Like, choices have consequences, you know, and I mean, it's not the end of the world if a donor-conceived kid reaches out to you. I hate that for the donors and for the parents a lot of time. It becomes such a shameful thing, and another thing we'll be talking about later, but, you know, we're not shameful people. Like, we should not be ashamed of who we are or how we were created, and people should not be ashamed of us, but anyway, that's a whole other thing, but, yeah, I think that covers kind of the basics of donor conception. And I know we're going to get into more of the different topics around it, including, you know, the ethics of it and maybe where it's going in the future, or more into where it's going in the future with these DNA websites and what's happening now. And I mean, a lot of people are fighting for different, you know, as it was on the donor children, you know, fighting for legislative change, and so there's a lot of interesting things going on with donor conception.
I know one of the
bills
bills
we'll be talking about.
Yeah, one of the bills that's out right now that I'm really curious to see is, so there's a big in this industry, there's a big number of doctors who use their own sperm. So moms will think they're getting whatever donor, and they get the doctor. And there's a new bill, I just saw somebody post about it earlier, for creating some sort of penalty for false insemination or something like that. But basically, like, if someone put the incorrect sperm, then that could be,
I think, have you seen
illegal.
Sisters?
Sisters.
It's a show on Netflix. I definitely, you need to watch it.
Yeah. I haven't seen it, but I remember you told me about it.
But the premise is basically a doctor, he owned a fertility clinic, and all these parents have been coming, and they've been having babies, and they thought he was using their husband's sperm, or either another sperm, but I think for the most part it was their husband's sperm, but they were doing like IVF for fertility reasons, and he was actually using his sperm, and he had 100 children, 100 plus children, and so he basically was going crazy in the end of his life and sent a letter to news media to like out himself, and he had his current biological daughter, and so it's just the whole show is about how she finds all of her siblings and the craziness that ensues, and it's a really good show. It's set in New Zealand, I believe, so it's fun accents to listen to.
I'll have to try it. That's that sounds interesting.
Yeah, it's a good show. I felt like it understood me in like many ways.
Yeah. It looks like the article I was thinking of is from Dallas, Texas, and they're trying to...
That's the one I pulled up, and I was going to talk to you about.
Yeah. Yep. All right.
Yeah, well, I guess this is it for this episode. We just wanted to give you an overview of the donor conception process. Again, I was talking to my friend Erin on the phone, and she kind of reminded me that a lot of people probably don't know what we mean by the donor registry and other things, and this may be a good foundation to talk a little bit more about the processing and all of that great stuff. Yeah. Do you have anything else, Deanna?
No, I'm just excited for that bomb to drop and start talking about stage 1 in our next episode, and really, dig into it a little more.
And go follow us on Instagram at the Donated Life Podcast, on Facebook, on Twitter. Definitely go rate and subscribe on iTunes if you can. That would be wonderful.
Yes, please.
We have a lot of cool stuff on our website if you want to check it out too, thedonatedlife.com. And we're just really loving it. I'm loving this. I'm loving just getting to hear from people about their stories and just how much this is bringing, I feel like, our little family together.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited to get through the stages so we can start talking to some siblings and
yeah. Well, we'll see you on our next episode.
Yeah. See you soon.
Bye.
Bye.